Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Kate Purcell. I said it on Twitter, so I'm going to say it here again. We're having a day today. The both of us, it's a day. So it's going to be even more chaotic than usual up in here. We might get off topic. I kind of hope we get off topic. That way we have an excuse to circle back to this later when we both have more brain power. But guess what? We're here today. We're doing it now. Hey, Rex, how you doing? We got Rex hanging out. We got Jeff from the Emergency Power Podcast hanging out. It's a good time. I'm Kay. I'm having a day. David is also having a day. David, who the heck are you and what are you doing? What are we doing?
Hi, I'm David. This is the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show where every week we talk about D&D stuff. Occasionally we have people on. Occasionally we talk about how to be better at doing the thing. All with a focus on intersectionality and inclusion so that everyone can have a good time.
And today we are going to try and talk about combat. Mostly because when we were plotting this episode, we were kind of riding a high from Godplane. Like, we got all of the praise from our two big fights in Godplane. Like, we had some smaller fights that were meh, but our two big fights in Godplane did really well. And we sat down today and we were both like, so it's going to be fun. However, I will be the first to say, I am not excellent at designing combat for D&D. A big reason for that is, well...
You don't gotta.
Well, I don't gotta, but also the times I've tried, the CR ratings, the challenge ratings are bullshit, fantasy. What's the word for that, David?
I had a brownout.
Challenge ratings are BS.
Yeah, challenge ratings are a poor metric. That's what we're going for.
That's the good word there. Yes. In fact, I believe was Jeff. We were talking about in the Emergency Power Podcast. We were talking last night, and I think it was you and Adam, Jeff, and you were talking about a CR like quarter monster that took you like 9 rounds.
Wow. Wow.
Like, I feel
I hope that dice gel is a blender.
And apparently the monster was also unable to hit. So it was just like, hey crew, how are you doing? It was just like, missed 9 rounds in a row, couldn't roll above a 6. Apparently the monster also could not hit Jeff's character. And that is, I've kind of said this before. And, for me, and don't get me wrong, I love all stages, all levels of D&D play, but for me, there's kind of, D&D in particular, I cannot speak excessively to other systems, but D&D in particular has like this sweet spot between levels like 5 and 10, or like 4 and 12, like there's kind of that area where the system, I think, works really nicely. You've got enough things where things can still be dangerous and a threat. You've got enough tools in your belt where you're not just like, oh no, I have 1 spell slot and that didn't do anything. Now I'm useless. Whereas when you get up to like levels 17 to 20, it's like, what god do I punch today?
Right.
So I like not necessarily level 1 play. Level 1 play is really stressful, but that can be fun in the right settings. But I really like kind of playing levels 4 to 5 and up a little bit because I just feel like you've got more flexibility and more going on.
I feel like so there are two sort of ways that I look at it. One is playability and the other is designing fights.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like between 5 and 8 is when you really get all of your kit, and you can really get into doing stuff that your class is known for.
Yeah.
Like, by the time you're level 6, as a monk, you're double dashing and slapping arrows out of the air, like you were born to do it. Um, you know, at level 6, no, at level 8 as a hunter, you're okay at doing your taxes, and that's about all you're good at.
Hunters have had a little bit rough.
Uh, Druids get like cool druid stuff in that range. Um, that's when fighters and barbarians get extra attacks and get action surges and get superiority dice and get like cool additional rage things. Um, and you get a lot of utility stuff as well. And that's also right in the range when you don't have just a whole like wheelbarrow full of really high level spells, because planning an encounter where you have 1 to 5 people who can break the laws of the known universe at will multiple times in a 60-second period,
Yeah.
it gets kind of complicated to design fights for that, especially when they're fighting creatures or people that also
Sorry, weird noise outside.
that also can break the laws of the universe as well. And so, especially if you're designing it in a vacuum, that's fine, because who cares if a Tarrasque shows up and you pick up a continent and throw it at the Tarrasque. But it's a different thing when you're playing in a world and there are very real consequences of the fallout of this fight, because you get, let's see, Fireball is what, level 4?
I don't play casters. I don't know. I need to play casters. I don't play casters.
I'll have to look it up. I think Fireball is a level 4 spell. You get that. Okay, you say something, because this is going to bother me and I need to look it up.
I'm gonna just high level play, breaking the laws of the known universe. Brennan Lee Mulligan made a bunny assassin. It's a Herongorn, level 20, that attacked 9 times and dealt over 800 damage in a single round. Level 3 spell, says Ikram.
Yep.
Dunno, unlock level.
Unlock level is 5th level, is when you have access to it.
800 damage in a single round. Combined Gloomstalker, Echo Knight, Haste, and Action Surge. He also put in Divine Smites and maxed out a crit every attack through donations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, also, I would like to say, this was a level 20 fight that was literally come at me, bro. Right? This was a charity thing, everyone knew that. And we have talked on the show many times about, there are not wrong ways to play. There are incorrect ways to play certain games or certain tables or certain things, right? If you want a meat grinder, that's great, so long as everyone knows it's a meat grinder. Everyone knew going into this that this was a
min-maxed, ridiculous.
Exactly. But even knowing that, Brennan Lee Mulligan literally built this character to do all of his damage in one round, and was literally he's done all of that, and then he's I think he is so exhausted after that he just falls asleep. So Brennan played the rest of the combat with his character asleep and rolling around to avoid damage. So
wait, if you're prone, you take double damage.
Yeah, the Tarrasque was not. The Tarrasque was mostly hurling spells and being a Tarrasque, not there's someone who hit me on the ground, I'm gonna go target him. This was not a diabolical big bad. This was a Tarrasque going. But I love that even if you're no, I'm a min-max it, you still have a character reason behind it. That's very fun to me.
So, Fireball. Level third level evocation spell. You get access to it. You get 2 spell slots at level 3 as a wizard at level 5. And I hate that it's called level on level, but here we are. Now, everyone who's played long enough has a story about Fireball. Somebody who didn't read the fine print of the spell cast it in a place on top of someone, and they shouldn't have.
I didn't ask how big the room was.
Right.
I said I cast Fireball.
Right. And and also anyone who played the old school Baldur's Gate games, like if you played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, the first time you dropped that bad boy in a fight and then you watched all of your friends die, you're like, wait a second. And then you went back and read the fine print again. Because it says, like, everyone sees 86 damage and they go, that hits like a truck, I'm going to dial that up. The 20-foot radius, which means a 40-foot circle, fire spreads around corners. It ignites flammable objects in the area that aren't being worn or carried.
Oh my goodness, I love wild magic so much, Mimics and Misfits. I have never played a caster. I don't know that I want to play a wild magic sorcerer, but I'm really sure I want to play a wild magic barbarian.
Yeah.
We have, if you watch Godplane, we have a dream magic barbarian as an NPC, and that's an alteration on it because I saw that and went, yes, that is everything. But yes, early game wild magic fireball. Whew. Whew.
And so, if you're level 5, you're not even, like, you don't have your own wizard tower at this point. You're just a guy in a robe, or a chick in a robe, or an NB in a robe, wandering around with a staff, going, "Hey, I know spells," and then you throw that out. If you throw it around in a town, you've just set fire to like 4 buildings. If you're in a field, you just set fire to the field. That fire spreads. If you're on somebody's farm, you just destroy their farm. If you're in a forest, like pretty much everywhere outside of a desert and like maybe out in the middle of the ocean, you have caused an immense problem for everyone who lives in the area. And that's a good time, especially if you're like underground. Like, you step on yet another kobold trap and you go, you know what? Fireball. And now the entire tunnel's on fire.
Misfits and Mimic says, you don't really need those buildings in the city, do you?
And again, that's 5th level. Like, we're not talking a 12th level caster. We're not talking an 18th level. We're not talking someone who can summon a god at will and demand something from them that the god then has to do. Actually, that reminds me of a module idea that you had that...
Oh yeah, we gotta do that at some point.
Yep, that's. I'm actually gonna make another note of that right now.
Yeah, we had a fun moment in. Okay, so as I said, I don't play casters. I want to play a caster. I actually intended my Starfinder character for the Emergency Fire podcast to be a caster, and then I went, do I want to come into a system I don't know at 6th level with a caster? That doesn't seem very smart, does it? That seems like too many moving parts, even for me, who is extra about everything. So I played a Solarian, which is a melee class. It's basically, if you know D&D, it's basically a paladin, like a Jedi-flavored paladin, with like graviton photon. Solarians are caster adjacent-ish, yes. And so at one point we were fighting in the thing, and you have to like you align, and the further you go to graviton or photon, you unlock things. And I went fully photon, and I'm like, I'm gonna go supernova. I'm gonna do it right here, right now. And the GM's like, how big is that? Because I had specifically moved. It's a 10-foot radius. And 15 feet away was an ally who was not necessarily doing good. And GM's like, are you? I'm like, no. I did the math. I am not doing the fireball mistake on my first big explosion. Yeah, no, I have read. Again, I've never cast fireball, but I've read enough about it that I'm like, I'm not gonna make that mistake, me personally. At the start of the thing, there's a lot of oh my god, David. It does 1d6 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Fire damage. Plus 1d6 per level.
What level is your...
7.
That is equivalent to casting fireball.
Yeah. I'm like...
Right now.
I was looking
but
forward to...
10 levels from now.
I was like... I get to roll 8d6 as a melee class. Like, I got some other cool... I got some shit in my... and we did boost it. I got some cool stuff in my tool belt. But I'm mostly a bonk machine. Until I explode. You put the foil in the microwave and I went boom.
Wow. That's vivid.
I am also a jerk who very specifically has fireball dice to roll. Rolling a bunch of these feels real good. It was also not very good rolls, but
it's very much a is that thunder outside or are you rolling for damage?
Yeah.
So combat design.
Back to the actual point.
So when I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and he said, wait, people don't enjoy combat in games? And I'm like, ooh-wee, do people not enjoy combat in games? And there are a lot of reasons why people don't enjoy combat in games. One is that a lot of it is just bad combat design. And there are a lot of different ways to look at it. One could be, this is a throwaway, meaningless fight. Like, this is, you are wandering the overworld and you trip a random encounter. And then it is this incredibly technical, incredibly difficult, really drawn out 15-20 round combat where everybody almost dies. And it's like, well, why? Like, these were literally cut purses who were trying to run our pockets. We're level 10. Why was this so troublesome? Where did they learn fireball? And that's just sort of a bad design philosophy. Like, if you're going to include those sorts of things, which is fine, don't make it so that you spend the next 3 sessions of your home game fighting this fight. Not just because it is a boring strain on your players, but also because it disrupts the power fantasy of, hey, my character went and studied magic. My character made an agreement with a god. My character trained for 20 years. My character, while you were off living your life, my character studied the blade.
My character found a cosmic sugar daddy.
Right. And then some random guy with a dagger almost puts you in the dirt? No, thank you.
Now let me just say real quick, there are certain games and certain settings where like that really gritty, nah, we're all surviving, this is gnarly, we've got wound damage and disinfectant you have to. There are people who want that, and if that's your jam, cool. We're not talking about that right now. We're not telling you not to ever do that. But if you're like, how come people in my D&D game don't like combat with elves and shit? That's fine.
Yeah, like if one of your players has the meteor materia and another one has Knights of the Round and the kobolds almost take them out, there's a incongruency there.
Cosmic confection. So, those of you, if you were not in the Emergency Power podcast Discord, a whole thing happened around the discussion of biscuits because our incredible guest player, Pan, is very British. And so the Great Biscuit debate arose. Are biscuits a savory, flaky treat, or are they sweet and do they come in tins? Yes, it is called the Biscord channel. And we started talking about Christmas one-shots involving biscuits. And now all I want is to play not a Solarian, but a Biscordian, who changes their alignment between savory and sweet. I hurt David so much, it is a wonder he puts up with me.
I can't with that. I can't. That's so much.
Yeah. We get flaky up in there.
Pain. Pain.
I'm also make a statement right now that makes zero sense to just about anyone here, and I don't care. I wish certain people were here. But cornbread is a cinnamon bun, and that's all I'm gonna say. Someday, if you watch my stuff, that will make sense.
I have questions, but yeah, what?
Cornbread is a cinnamon bun.
I forgot what I was gonna say. It's gone.
So, David and I tag team things. Now I want cinnamon buns. I mean, cinnamon buns are delicious. I'm gonna derail again. When I lived with my brother and I have an interesting relationship. We shared an apartment together, 6 years between us. It was interesting. I love to cook and bake, and he loves it when I cook and bake. And if he ever did anything to really piss me off, if he ever just absolutely refused to do something or was just being a bad roommate, I had a Cinnabon candle. I had a candle that was literally branded Cinnabon that smelled like and if I was ever really pissed at him, I would set it right by the door and I would light it. So he would come home from work and be like, "You bake! Oh, I hate that candle!"
That's mean. It's real mean.
It's so mean. It was wonderful. It was the ultimate. David and I tag team combat because, as y'all might have noticed, I'm not sure if you noticed, you don't see a lot of David in our combats or on our. And that's my choice. If David, I keep trying to get David to be on screen more.
We'll get there. No. We're working on stuff.
But I love that I have someone that has been playing D&D so long and has played a lot of the crunchy D&D that I can go, David, this is the group, this is the kind of feel I want. Here's a cool monster concept, here's a cool thing that I think would be cool, like as a base, make it. And then we work together about, okay, so what are they gonna do other than just hit on it? Because you haven't played Pathfinder 2e yet, have you, David?
I've played 2 Pathfinder games. One of which was only like 4 sessions.
No, 2e just came out.
Oh yeah, no, I've played 1.
So,
yeah, no, I have not played 2e. Right, I looked
Pathfinder
it up.
2e, I have to learn. I need to learn it. I have played it. I got to play it with Jeff. I have played it and I like it because it solves a little bit of the problem that D&D really has, which a lot of rules light, like Powered by the Apocalypse and all those, don't have as much. Because combat can be a lot more mobile. Because in D&D, you either get up to a monster or you stay the heck away from a monster. Because if you move, there's attacks of opportunity and...
Yeah, you get bonked.
Right. You don't want that. Bonking sucks. Pathfinder, and Jeff, you probably know this better than me. Pathfinder 2e, so correct me if I'm wrong. Pathfinder 2e, attacks of opportunity are only unlocked by certain classes or by a feat. So you know how, like, you can get Sentinel, so you could bonk play. Like, it's kind of like attacks of opportunity become Sentinel. So you're all moving around. That's correct. Not everyone gets it. So that makes your whole combat so much more mobile. Because, you know, it's almost like I'm a melee class. I have to run up to this thing, this giant monster, and bonk it. Oh, now giant monster is walking on top of me, and there's nothing I can do, and I can't run away because it's got reach, so it'll kill me, and it's just going to stand on top. Like, you know, it avoids a lot of that. We're not playing Godplane, and most of the games we run are not Pathfinder 2e. They are D&D, and so we have to figure out, hey, Kato, I'm trying to remember what game it was where we had combat on a moving wagon.
Yep.
Also leaves an air of mystery over whether that will provoke or not. Yeah, like, that's really cool that I like the idea of, like, we need to maneuver this character to the front because they will get an attack of opportunity, you know, but we have some wiggle room. It's not guaranteed. We'll get bonked if we run away. So David and I spend a lot of time, how do we make... David is really good at mechanics and is really good at, like, here's things that monsters can do and layer actions and legendary actions that will not one-hit KO the party, but will stress them the heck out. David is so good at those things. Playing in his home game, I don't always like it. Running games with him, I really like it.
Yeah.
So David does a lot of, like, here's the main damage dealer, but then here's all this other stuff that you can do to pad it out, because you don't just want to hit the party until they die. And then once we kind of have that skeleton of, like, okay, this is what this fight is going to feel like, we actively try to find ways to break up combat a little bit and make it a little bit more narrative and make it a little bit more cinematic. And if you watched the Tazik fight in Godplane, which I love that fight. I hate that fight. I love that fight. It is one of the coolest fights I think I've ever run, I've ever had the pleasure of playing in. David has designed an incredible fight there. Kato's character is in it. One of my characters is in it as NPCs. I love it. It is a freaking nightmare to run. But we stuck major lore drops and lore confirmations in the middle of that fight. Past week in the Godplane, the party went up against the Nightmare, fighting the boss in the penultimate. What can that mean?
Yep. Yeah, big question mark. What's happening next episode?
It was really funny because we did the first half, and then I'm like, okay, we're going to break. But before we go to break, like, everyone was like, you could watch the players were just like, and I'm like, okay. At the top of the round, you all hear in your heads, we need to talk. And the whole party's like, and we're going to break. And everyone yelled at me. And then it was so funny. And we say this in the after show. If you watch the after show, it's great. Herb, I'm like, okay, we're on the hold screen, gone. And Herb is like, this is the Final Fantasy 14 cutscene where we're gonna have, like, flashbacks. It's gonna be a cutscene, and then we're gonna come back to the combat. And I'm like, That's exactly what we're doing. And we cut away and gave each character a mini vignette of like their background and things that they wanted to change and things that they like or things that they desire before we came back to combat to kind of break it up and let everyone reset and give both the players and the audience a break from bonking. Do you have a dynamic mechanic that you've used and then immediately regretted unleashing on the players? Secondary question, how did you recover if you did? This wasn't in combat, I let a party girl demigod loose on one of my worlds.
Woof.
And I don't know that my world will ever recover from it. The thing is, I really like D&D books. I really like the way David, that altered the culture of the world. You watched, well, I don't know if you watched all the first season of Godplane. Oh, the end of Godplane, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this person this thing, and they're gonna get to go do this. And the player was like, nah, I'm gonna stay a demigod, and I'm gonna fuck up everything. And I'm like,
Yep.
what have I done to my world?
Yep.
Yeah, oh no. Oh no. I did not calculate correctly. So that's just always in the back of my mind of like, oh, that's what's happening. I really like the way David designs fights because there's the big boss, there's often secondary characters that all have their own stuff to do. There's layer actions, there's legendary actions. And so I can, hopefully remember all the things. That's the thing about big combats. You can talk about this in a second, David. You need legendary actions and layer actions to help balance out one boss, one action, versus all the shit the players can do. But you gotta remember all those layer actions and all of those things. So it's very nice when you have a co-DM who could be like, hey, don't forget, hey. But also, if I'm like, you know what? Everyone's really low on HP. I'm just gonna say that something happens and these things stop biting them at the top of every turn. I'm just gonna say, I will flub those things for the players, but wrap it in a narrative burrito. Because I would... And David and I have talked about this, and David actually taught me this philosophy. And I have 100% stolen it, latched onto it, made it part of my DNA, injected it into my cells. Combat should serve a purpose. Now, there are times when the purpose is, y'all is sitting around and not doing anything, and it's boring, especially in a stream game, in a home game less so, but unless, go. Good way to tell people to go is to keep throwing low-level trash mobs at them. It turns up the pressure a little bit. But I would rather not use every single tool at my disposal, but find a narrative reason to make things worse. So a lot of what we do with Godplane fights, yes, y'all fucked around and now you're about to find out combat. Yes, and those are not, you shouldn't spend 18 rounds killing those trash mobs.
Yep.
I would rather, yes, be hacking away at my party's hit points, be throwing terrible things at them, constantly having them go, can I counterspell that? What do I need to do? How's everyone's health? And have them on their toes, but also not constantly dropping. Constantly dropping can be fun, but I'd rather not have them constantly drop and have them get frustrated, and I'd rather drop lore. I'd rather remind them of a fact, a terrible thing that they'd forgotten about. I would rather do something psychological so that the story is more personal. And it's, hey, Saucefire, so that it's more personal and it is more tailored to them. Rather than Oh, you've dropped again. Oh, now your healer's dead. Oh, now this has happened. I would rather say 2 of you are down. The big bad starts gloating, and it's powering up to something. Oh, look at it power up. Oh, now you're back up, and now the horrible thing happens, right? I would rather stall and give them the Dragon Ball Z scream moment to recover than just keep batting them down so this combat drags on and on, especially for stream games. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. That's the way I like to do it. David, talk about your design philosophy and some of that stuff I've been talking about.
So, first, going back to the question that Kato asked about mechanics that you used and immediately regretted unleashing it on the players, giving the players haste.
Yeah.
Just sliding that across the table and be like, here you go. Huge mistake. Because, so, there are a couple of different approaches to combat in D&D specifically. And a lot of that is because of the attack of opportunity problem. With attack of opportunity, D&D becomes a fight to the death every time. And like we've mentioned before, a fight doesn't have to and should not always end in everybody on one side dies. Like if you're fighting a wild animal, like you fight a cheetah. Cheetahs are notorious for being like, oh, this is too hot for me, I'm gone. And so you bonk a cheetah, and the cheetah goes, wait, ow. Cheetah gonna turn around and run away. But if you bonk hard enough, then when it turns around and run away, then it gets hit enough whereby it dies. And so because of that, your average GM will not have enemies choose to take damage and without like being able to return it, and so it becomes a meat grinder and then you have to die. Also, if you have like a roving band of bandits, like their bread and butter is they hit you hard, take your stuff and leave, not fight until they are dead. And so both in home games I've run and in other games that Kay and I have designed, we've included a retreat mechanic to sort of make it so that like you don't have that meat grinder. But when it comes to combat in D&D is either you're burning through all of your resources, it is an all or nothing push to the end, or combat is designed to wear down your resources over a period of time. And so, if you're dungeon crawling and it's not necessarily safe to rest, then you're not going to have your wizard dropping all of their 5th level spells every fight. They're going to sit there and go, okay, is this worth it? Like, do I, cast this incredibly high level spell on this kobold? Because who knows what I might be fighting in the later on today. And so when designing combat, you have to decide, okay, is this a boss fight or is this a, random encounter? Is this something where I want them to expend absolutely everything and make that clear to the players? Or is it something where I want to like chip away at their resources over the course of the day? And then the final thing about action economy is, like Kay said, the purpose of layer actions and legendary actions. You have a lich, and they're in their lair, they're, dreaming up whatever evil thing that they're doing, and you have 5 people show up who all have their own actions. who in many cases can attack multiple times in a round. And, even if you have 5 warriors or 5 fighters at level 6, that is minimum 10 attacks that can all bonk the Lich. And so if they're doing, 5 HP per hit on average, then they're doing 50 damage and that fight is over in 2 rounds. Whereas that Lich gets one chance to go, okay, this particular person, or even if that Lich casts Fireball, that is nowhere near the amount of damage that those 5 players can put out. And so, so the idea is you want to add other things so that there's some sort of balance between 5 people breaking the laws of the known universe at the same time versus one person with a warhammer going, what did you just do? And so you gotta add stuff, and sometimes that is adding additional enemies. Sometimes that is dreaming up layer actions. Sometimes that is dreaming up legendary actions.
And sometimes
but
that's just saying, hey, I'll give you your deepest, darkest desire if you just stop hitting me.
Right.
And then seeing who goes for it.
And as I've said before, the Tazik fight is the most complex fight I have ever designed. And I will go on the record saying that it is going to be the most complex fight I ever will design. Because fights don't necessarily need to be that complicated. But for Kay and I spent a lot of time designing that, and it did all the things that we needed to do storytelling wise. So it's not like we were making it complicated for complicated's sake.
And yeah, that was a fight designed to be kind of the crowning moment on a whole series of narrative threads that we had put out. We wanted it to be very clear that this Tazik character was unhinged and dangerous and good. We also wanted to make it clear there's a whole host of people as interesting and unique as you that have come before you. And so that's why there are these 4 very unique party members, and David and I dreamed up part of them.
Yep.
Fractions of them, because they are actually the characters that David, Cato, Judy, and Dane and I play in our home game that David GMs. So we didn't have to sit here and go, what's 4 really diverse and interesting what are these unique personalities? Because we were able to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, drop in, which let us A, do a really fun tribute to really awesome people that I really like playing with. But B, we had this whole group of very different, interesting characters with very different, unique, great artist steel, exactly, with really unique personalities and mindsets and powers and skills. And I was really proud of running it this time because we finished and like more than one person was like, that's the most cinematic battle I've ever been. I didn't feel like I was up above looking down, right? So especially after that feedback, now whenever I'm looking at combat, I'm like, what do I need to do? And if you want really cool, super cinematic combat, there's some great, everyone references Matthew Mercer, and yes, Matthew Mercer does a lot of descriptions. But that Bronze Girl is incredible with her descriptions. Brennan Lee Mulligan is really good at that also. But also, how do you make your combat really cinematic? You start asking your characters, what does this look like? How does this do it? And then, at one point, someone cast a lightning bolt into this thing, and I'm like, what is the color of it? And they took that and expanded it out. And then I'm like, cool, there's a cloud of daggers in there. So this lightning starts ricocheting off of all of those daggers. And like, you take You encourage them to add their flavor. You take their flavor, you turn it up in a way that acknowledges and makes what they came up with cooler, and players just go, oh, nom, 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 nom. And it makes them, the next time they do something, go, oh, I want to do something even cooler this time. And pretty soon you have just all of these awesome inputs. I know, at one point, there was a fight with fire in a desert. I want to be careful so I don't spoil certain things, so I'm going to be vague about this, but there was a fight with fire in a desert, and a bunch of fire went off, just super, super hot, and it turned all of the sand in the air to glass. And the GM's like, and then a monster bursts through the glass that was just made, and I was like, that's such a good moment. That's such a cool GM moment. Oh, my character's so cool. You know, like, it's like, yes. Gotta love when players try to one-up each other with cool ideas. Even more than one-upping each other, it is so cool when someone's like, you did that? I'm gonna take that and add this to it. Like, I had a whole discussion. Retro Zelda's not hanging out today. Retro Zelda is often hanging out in the chat. I'm super lucky I get to work with him. We were having a talk. He's like, how do you get players who are so, like, cinematic and story focused and interested in the lore? And I'm like, you find the right player. That is not, I can take no credit for that except for bringing them together. So yeah, and I know we mention this almost every time, but, like, people talk about the Matt Mercer effect, and oh my god, I want a GM as good as Matt Mercer. Cool! Then be a player as good as Liam O'Brien. Take notes and take those notes and build theories the way that Marisha Ray does. Come up with weird, chaotic things the way that Laura Bailey and Taliesin do. Yes, a good GM can do a lot for a session, but you also got to bring your game and inspire and include your other players. And if you want to make combat super cinematic, if you just say, like, yeah, I hit him. Yeah, I cast this thing. You know, nah, if you want that cool cinematic combat, okay, I see it, it's taunting me, I'm so angry, I reach out, I pull like, that's how you inspire a GM.
Yeah, and that's ultimately, like, one of the problems, going back to a conversation I had with my friend of, like, how can combat be bad, is both GMs and players can make it really boring, because if it's just like, all right, roll your attack, all right, you missed, all right, now it's your turn, okay, roll your attack, you hit, okay, how much damage do you do? And then, you know, it becomes an Excel spreadsheet of combat. And for anyone who's had to stare at an Excel spreadsheet for work,
I played a game on stream with a GM, and it was like, Siege Tower comes up, and I was playing a druid, and I'm like, cool, I cast Ice Storm at the top of that thing and partway down it. So everyone coming up it has to make a DC 15 dexterity save, or else they fall prone, which is going to bottleneck, which is going to give us a chance, right? And the GM's like, yeah, there's ice there or something. And then you hear the people on it start singing, and they're bards, so they fly. So they just avoid the whole thing you just did. If you don't make your players feel cool, they're not gonna do cool shit. And you can absolutely shut them down.
Yep.
But you gotta shut them down in a way that makes them that fun challenge, that makes them righteously angry. If you want your players to absolutely murder your big bad, cast Counterspell on a mass healing word.
Yep. Ooh, yeah.
Done. Your players
Absolutely.
will never murder anything harder than the one who casts Counterspell on that. But, so yes, how do you make combat interesting? Well, if you're going meat grinder, because there's Meat grinders can be fun. It's like I've got like 16 characters and we're gonna murder all of them.
Yep.
But that you have to play it up. That has to be like a Dragon Ball Z or a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or that's gotta be like, or Goofy, right? Yep, nope, that one's dead. The crane machine claw comes in and drops in the new character. Like, if it's just, yep, enough damage, they're dead. Next one.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So D&D is based off of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings gave us the blueprint because you sit down, you read Lord of the Rings, a book in 2 volumes, and on the first page of the second volume, the first and second page, is the Battle of Helm's Deep. The entire battle is 2 pages. J.R.R. Tolkien spends more time talking about walking, what people eat, and the Elvish language.
And walking trees.
That he does on one of the biggest, most pivotal battles in all of Middle-earth. In the history of Middle-earth. Which, fine. So you see that in the book, those 2 pages. And then you watch the movie The Two Towers, where the entire third act is this desperate fight against the armies of Mordor. And take those 2 pages and make them into the end of this movie. And that's how you make combat be not terrible. Because and Kay and I have spent a lot of time, the number crunching, the brain melting number crunching that we did for Horde Mechanics for Godplay, where then we basically never got to use it. It defeats the brain. And I love Horde Mechanics. One of the first games that I ever played had a battle with Horde Mechanics where there was a fighter and a paladin who stood in a pass and fought and killed hundreds of things while somebody flew on a magic carpet and dropped barrels full of oil down onto the battlefield. Like, super cool. But you could do that like meat grindery thing and have it be cool and have it be engaging. And you could do the whole like, I killed this many things. How many have you done? Oh, elf, you're not gonna one up me.
One of the first games I played, like one of the first big TTRPG things I played, they were like not. I was told you could only talk in combat on your turn or as a reaction.
Yikes.
So
Why?
Combat was so boring because you couldn't smack talk. There were no clever comebacks. Yes, Kato says, on the topic of interesting combat, there was a player in a game that he played in with a hidden combat mechanic where his brothers would join every battle and try to kill that character specifically. They eventually found out that character died 3 times over the course of the game because his brother killed him and replaced him without the party even perceiving it happened. They were all identical twins.
Wow.
And look, I can understand. So let me just be clear. I can understand if there is a very big, heavy, especially in home games, if there's like a really big decisions have to be made combat, right? Are we going to stand and fight? Are we going to run? All like really high pressure things. Capping in-game chatter so that you all can't just sit around and go, I'm going to go do this. Oh, I want to, like you can't plot. Every character has to make the decision. I can understand that. But combat is so much more fun when you've got Gimli and Legolas talking shit to each other, counting, like taunting the enemies, saying, hey mom, brought friends, hope that's okay.
Right.
It's so much better. At least to watch.
And back to what we opened the show with, challenge rating, and this ties into talking about the haste spell. So haste, especially, so if you haste the whole party, that doubles the amount of people who are dealing damage, which, and when it's at the beginning of the fight, when they have nothing that they have to worry about mitigating, they have nothing that they have to worry to react to, where it's just that opening salvo of we're going to hit this thing as hard as possible, then however many hit points you gave your big bad is not enough. They're going to evaporate that thing. They are going to melt it down so fast that all that will be left is putty. And sometimes that's what you want. And so with challenge rating, the big problem with challenge rating is two things. One, the higher up you go, and the more utility stuff your enemies have access to, the very, very, very different way combat can go. Because you could have a wizard that has power word kill, that also has like entangle, and also has magic missile. And so if you want to be an asshole, you can load up power word kill as your first attack, and that makes it a really hard encounter. And if you bump up fireball up 2 levels, then all of a sudden you're dropping 10d8 down on your players. Or is it 10d6? 10d6 down on your players. You're rolling a lot of dice.
But also,
to hurt
like,
people.
let's talk about the other end of that, which is the lower end, which is a mimic.
Yep.
Is a CR2.
Yep.
Creature.
And a level 2 adventurer will get eaten alive by a mimic.
One of two things. They will either obliterate the mimic, no problem, or they will fail their saves to get their weapons back, and now they have no weapons. Because if you hit a mimic, your weapon sticks to it. And so if all of your classes are melee and they have lost their weapons, you're in trouble.
Yep. And combat rating is like one person of this level can take this thing. And it doesn't plan for approach for the GM, and it doesn't deal with rolling poorly. And I think the other thing that it doesn't account for is the rate of damage dealt. So, like, again, if you want to do your random encounters, you want thieves and cut purses to attack. You want the town guard to ambush your group of oops all thieves. My advice, take their HP and cut it in half. You really want to have a wham bam thank you ma'am fight where everybody goes dice dice dice, we're out of here.
So Rex says, I had a few fights where the villain crits and nearly one hits a PC in a game that he plays in. DM does not nerf damage, and it's way too stressful as a player knowing that you can maybe die in a round or two.
Yeah, and like I said, the damage, and even like status effect utility spells are so like a beholder has an anti-magic cone, and so you have a wizard, a sorcerer, a paladin, and a fighter in a party, and you come around the corner and there's a beholder, and all of a sudden your damage is reduced to 1/3, and that thing can hit hard, can hit super hard. And so you don't have mitigation, you don't have healing, and you also can't burst fire it down. And so now you're stuck in this long fight where this thing will down one of your players because of one mechanic that it has.
And
One
also,
mechanic that you can't plan for or get around.
there's times and places for that sort of thing. We have a character
Right.
in our home game who keeps doing stuff and keeps almost dying, and the rest of the party is pretty okay. Like, a couple others have gotten close, but this one character keeps dying. But it's also a little bit of that play style. Or like in Godplane, we had like kind of a tense but power fantasy fight, and then we had an NPC no longer with the party, and then we threw him in another fight, and that was supposed to be hard and scary because we wanted to put the fear of the God plane in them,
Right.
so that they knew your babysitter's gone. So there are times and places, there, again, narrative reasons, there should probably be fights that are scary. But also, if you're just mowing down some kobolds and those kobolds are mowing you down back, maybe that's the wrong thing. Kato says, here's a question for you. On stream games, what's your rules for talking during combat? Talk. Narrate. Be descriptive. If there is a section where I'm like, all of this is happening super fast, you all get, message spell rules. You get 25 words. That's how many you get in 6 seconds. Go. But that is specifically, we are trying to set a mood. We are trying to build tension. We are trying to do this very specific thing. For stream games, I'm not going to say no one, because I'm sure there is someone out there who wants to who is like, all of these games right now are so narrative and just people being funny. Where's the math? I want to see people break out the calculators. And again, I watch the level 20 ridiculous things where Brennan Lee Mulligan attacks 9 times and does 800 damage in a single round. That is fun. But also, it's Brennan Lee Mulligan. He's cracking jokes and being the smartass that he is between. So, yeah, I want people to talk. I want people to be funny. I want to see how your character reacts to all of this stuff in battle.
Yo, the Bangalore joke. Anyway, Kato says, have you ever designed a fight without HP on the page? Like an idea of in lower level fights, X number of successful hits equals fight over. Then again, as I'm typing this out, this feels like what you were talking about earlier as a flea mechanic. So, fun fact, a little peek behind the DM screen. I put specific hit points on everything, but none of that is set in stone.
We definitely have tiers too, especially when we're getting to know a party. So it's like, here's one. If they're doing no damage, here's one. If they're doing a shit ton of damage, maybe bump to this one.
But like, if you're fighting a big bad and one of your characters has the biggest bone to pick with this person, and they crit, and they do a metric ton of damage, and that boss has 3 hit points left after all that math, he's going down. He's dead.
Yeah.
And conversely, if you have, and this is also something I've run into, if you have players that roll really well and are very strategic in how they approach combat, then all of a sudden 60, 70, 120 hit points immediately disappear. And so if the opening salvo of the big boss fight, the players do 95 hit points of damage before the guy finishes his monologue and he's got 89 HP on the page, then he just got another 89 HP.
I will also say... Oh, continue.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that you go out of your way to not reward players for hitting hard and doing well. Like, you're not going to make that boss fight 10 rounds. Like, he might go down in the second round, he might go down in the third round. Same thing with like sort of like ticky-tack little ads. Like when we did Snow and Wilson's. There were a couple of those where it's like, it's got 8 HP, you did 7 damage, it's made of snow, it explodes, move on.
Yeah.
And if we were in a position whereby that extra 1 HP would have generated a lot of tension, like everyone else is down and this one person has 3 hit points left, the next round is this snow, then you go, oh man, it got 1 HP left, what are you gonna do, how is this gonna go? But yeah, like, and that's why I have a real big like beef with open roles, with DMs who, you know, go, this is, you know, rules is written and this is like, this is the number you have to hit, because we're not accountants. Accountants are great. We all need the work that they do. We don't get off of work, come home, fire up Discord, break out the chips, grab our dice to then be accountants.
If you are going to be an accountant, if the moment calls for it, if a fight could go either way, and Brennan Lee Mulligan is so good about this. They have a box of doom. Most of the stuff he rolls is behind the table, but he's like, okay, this is a big moment. You've come up with a cool narrative around it. You've all done something very clever. You've cast this spell. He's got a +8 modifier. Your save is this. If he rolls this or below, he fails. And then rolls in front of the screen. That's a cool moment. Also, like, if you have built a huge... There was someone telling this great story about their, 9 months into a campaign. There's a big-ass dragon fight, and they have been preparing for this dragon fight, and the players have their own private Discord channel, and they have been plotting. And GM's like, let's go. Big tension, big dragon fight, gonna take the whole session. And player rolls up and says, okay, first round, Ranger, I pull out my arrow of dragon slaying. And GM's like, what?
Wait, where'd that come from?
Like, 3rd episode, they got a boon from some NPC, and the guy said, I'd like an arrow of dragon slaying. And he's like, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever. Forgot about it. GM completely forgot the magic item was given. And it's like, okay, well, even so, it's a dragon. It's got a high AC. Sure. Roll the... It's a nat 20. Dragon is dead. Whole fight negated. And you know what? Players would have been infuriated if the GM had flubbed that. If the GM had said, oh, yeah, nat 20, but another dragon comes out, right? Like, unless that had been seeded. But everyone went, and then we pulled out the arrow of dragon slaying, and it was a nat 20, and we didn't have to fight the dragon. That's what you want to give your players. Is that character's name J.R.R. Tolkien? Like, those are the moments that you want to build. And I love to be very, very clever. And if you watch if you watch Waterdeep Tales, GM'd by the incredible Saucefire, who's hanging out in chat. I don't think we gave you one of these. I thought I knew where the final big boss fight was going. I thought we were going to fight a certain individual. And I'd spent a bunch of time kind of seeding that my character was starting to question her thoughts on her choices in life, all of her thoughts on family and following their advice and staying safe and all of that. Like, I had seeded this. This was a point of conflict for my character. And then who I thought was going to be the big bad is like, I'm doing all this for my family. And I'm like, ooh. So I was prepared I don't know if I told you this, Sauce. You might be finding this out live. I was prepared to go into that fight, thinking that's prepared for that fight. It was gonna be, and Trixie rolls generally real well. Artificer generally rolled really well on initiative, and I think was up first in that fight. It was gonna be like, okay, you're doing this for your family. Then be quick about it. And then say, Sauce, if he's willing, she gonna cast haste.
Ooh.
And then let the big bad do one action and drop haste.
Ooh. Ooh. That's for people who don't know. Haste is a concentration spell. So when you break concentration on haste, that means you are fatigued, and you stand there with your thumb up your butt, and you do nothing but get railed. Just nothing happens. Like you just window shutdown noise for an entire round, and
the rest of that round, and then the one after it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And ooh-wee, you take a big bad and you deprive them of action for 2 rounds straight. That fight's over. Just over.
Yep. Didn't happen. Sauce is more clever. Sauce is more clever than my trash panda artificer.
This time.
This time. But yeah, I love getting clever. Like, again, I have my, and not just in that sort of thing. I love being clever. I love taking the rules of D&D as written and using them in fun or creative ways. As some of us have seen with my magical girl, who literally turns into a galaxy lamp. Tiefling, ASMR, Circle of the Stars druid. I love it. No one expects it. And it's all rules as written accurate, so long as the GM agrees that a tiefling is a humanoid. Some GMs are not down with that. Also, D&D 1 might not have ASMR, which...
Yeah, I'm gonna homebrew that and put it up on the internet immediately after. And so when it comes to making combat more interesting, we've talked about like random encounters. We've talked about like cut purses and make your little encounters narrative. Like, just like your big boss fights are important, like if your pack of Oops All Thieves keeps mowing down guards, that, or if you have a pack of murder hobos, then you can make it so that each of those fights has longer repercussions, i.e. another band of adventurers sent to come get you. You know, it could be that there is a particular cult that wants something off of one of your people, and that's why you have random cultists attacking you all over the place. And if you really want to fuck with your players, because let's be real, if you get attacked by somebody and they cut you and you cut them down, you're gonna dig through their pockets. You're gonna find some coin. You're gonna find something where. Have them find random things. A gnarled pack of playing cards. A cup and dice for games. Weighted dice. But also have them have personal items. Like a letter from their daughter that says, Papa, I can't wait to see you again. Mommy says you can come home now. Or they're writing a letter home that's halfway done that says, I almost have enough money to save the farm. I will see you soon. And so on, and so on, and so on. Yeah,
also,
or you find an uncooked package of pasta.
Also, you can use those moments to narratively seed things that maybe even you as the GM don't know is there
Right.
yet. One of my favorite moments in a Court of Fey and Flowers, which is the Abria's almost no combat. Regency game on Dimension 20. It is excellent. It is so good. It is some of my favorite D&D. One of the players was like, they is having a moment with another player and was like, here is a key as a gift. And the other player took it and was like, great. And kept it in their stuff. And then like 4 episodes later, found out they weren't the enemies they thought they were. She's like, give me the key back. Give me that key back. Give me that key. I'm like, why? It's like, this is cursed. This will make all your hair fall out. And they were talking about it after, and she was like, I didn't know what the key was going to do. But I knew that I wanted to put an item into play. And so there can be a lot of really fun creator agency that can be given. Of like, if every item in your world is deliberately placed and you know what it all is,
That's
yes,
exhausting. Who does that?
it is exhausting. But, you know, having a couple things and a player picks it up and goes, is this what I think it is? And you're like, I don't know, what do you think it is? Is it this thing? Maybe.
Now it is.
Guess you'll find out later. And then you don't touch it for a couple months. Players feel real smart.
Or, yeah, like, you make, giving the combat some sort of narrative some sort of narrative relevance. Like, you find a +1 dagger on one of the bodies, it has an inscription on it. And then 20 sessions later, someone goes, oi, that dagger looks real familiar, and then all of a sudden you have a problem. When players go into combat, well, for one, it affects whether they'll choose to pick a fight or not. You know, if you put them in a city where the town guard is everywhere, and someone says, hey, stop, talk to us, there's going to be a decision of, well, do we take these guys and risk incurring the wrath of the entire city, or do we try to talk our way out of it? Versus, you know, it was like, oh, 3 town guards stop you, you fight them, nothing happens, you move on.
Yeah. There was a... You don't always have to use combat to regulate your murder hobos. And in fact, that's often the worst way to do it, because if you keep throwing stronger and stronger things at them, they're either going to die, or they're going to figure out how to get better at being murder hobos. There was a moment in Campaign 1 of Critical Role where the party was getting a little murder hobo-y, and someone did pick a fight with them, and they killed kind of the main instigators, and there were just another couple people, just normal, you know, hired hands who were like trying to get away, and the party hunted them down and murdered them.
Yikes.
And one of them was an old lady.
Yikes.
I mean, mercenary old lady, but still old lady. And Mercer was like, I don't want this game to be that. I want... So instead of, now all the town guard is on you, someone saw it. Someone reported it. They were brought before, you know, the city that they're supposed to be the heroes of, and were kind of given a talk to. One of the characters was trying to romance up an influential person in the court who was no longer interested in them, because they spoke to the dead or scried on one of the bodies or something, and they saw exactly what everyone did, and it caused their standing in the city to fall, and they had to improve their reputation to get better. That's such a better way of handling it than like, well, now everyone's gonna fight you.
Yeah, and one of the favorite parts of a game I played a long time ago, and I've mentioned this before, the wizard took a trait, or a negative trait. He was an alcoholic, and had a random chance of casting Fireball after a certain level, or not casting Fireball, of casting something in his spell list after, and so of course, gets drunk, rolls poorly, casts fireball, burns down tavern, does it again. When they get to the third town, no one will serve him because they go, wait, you're the guy who burns down taverns. And so they had to, or we, because I was part of the party, we had to literally outrun the rumor before his alcoholism became a problem. Because the longer he went without alcohol, that caused more issues. If you have murder hobos that go into a place to go and, or you have a shopping episode and your shopping episode turns into a murder episode, then when they come back or when they go somewhere else, even if the town guard goes, listen, we can't take these guys, they can call down a meteor from the sky. That doesn't mean the merchants are going to be cool with that. And so they'll walk into a blacksmith and they go, hey, can we get our armor repaired? And they go, we don't, you murdered Ted 3 months ago in this town. That was my cousin. I'm not going to serve you. Supernova says, I had a group that made the mistake of shooting the police in a Judge Dredd-esque world. It didn't end well for them. Yeah, like, there's so many repercussions other than someone bigger and stronger than you comes and bonks you on the head.
Cost you
to quote,
jobs if the Adventurers Guild won't work with you anymore.
right. At risk of quoting the internet, we live in a society. And society's got rules and society's got consequences. One of the ways to make combat more interesting is to make combat have consequences. Because if you drop that fireball and you set those buildings on fire, then there are going to be repercussions. And those repercussions make you think more about how you approach combat, which makes it more interesting.
And I think we are winding down on our time here. Chat, any final thoughts or tips or stories that you would like to tell? Kato says, I once played an L5R game where I had a DM that was trying his hardest to make me murder townsfolk for a reason I still don't know. My character would just keep getting out of these situations with talk jitsu. He didn't tell me how, but he told me it had to do a lot of rewrites.
Wow.
Yeah, David keeps complaining about the rewrites we made him do in the home game.
Yeah, but you know what? As a GM, if you have players where they don't make you either stop and scramble or go home and delete a couple of pages and start from scratch on something, then find better players.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it like a gazillion times again. It doesn't just have to be in-game actions. We had first season of Godplane, we had a player who couldn't make it to every session. I think they missed 3 sessions or something like that.
Yep.
And I start the way that Godplane is structured. I start with each character with a pretty solid, or at least an idea of how I'm going to end their story arc, so that I can build that arc because this is a small, structured campaign. I had an idea for how that character's plot was going to end, but because this was a character with a strong tie to a god, and then that character had to go missing several times, I started incorporating that more and more into the story. And the story that became because that character missed 3 sessions was better than the story that would have unfolded had they not missed those 3 sessions, because it was like, no, this is the story that this entire situation is trying to tell. So even if your players ruin your plans, they can also make it better. The moment where I made Adam delete his game notes. Ooh.
Yep. Been there.
Yeah.
We were gathering MacGuffins to stop the evil BBEG, an evil orb, and an evil spike, and I decided to smash the orb with the spike. Oh, sauce.
Yep. Something similar to that happened in campaign 3. Roll, I won't say what, but like one character's like, "Oh, you can't destroy magic items. Throw that thing up. It's got magic. Throw it up," and then smashes the item that was not magic but just enchanted that they spent all this time trying to get. Suddenly shattered and gone. But you know, sometimes that happens. Then you have to write around it. Yes, Sauce never has a plan, but also Sauce always lands the plane.
Yes.
So,
which is still magic. That is sorcery.
It definitely is magic. Hey, Kiras, we are just wrapping up. Again, any last thoughts, questions, or stories you would like to share? I hope this has helped. Even if it doesn't inspire, even if it doesn't clarify, I hope it gives you some different options, some different ways to think about things. Because as we said, combat can be clunky, but it doesn't just have to be math and rolling dice. If you start having your big bad slip plot information, taunting people with truths that they're trying to hide, threatening to reveal secrets in combat, that can really change the flavor of things. What's your all-time favorite combat mechanic?
Sneak attack.
Yeah, I love sneak attack. Bonus action hide sneak attack is just... I will say, and I talked about this a little bit earlier, I kind of get to do it a little bit in Starfinder, but in Pathfinder 2, they have a three action economy. So instead of action, bonus action, move, you have 3 actions. So you can use 3 actions to move. You can use an action to move and then 2 actions to attack. You can slice those up any way you want. But it gets really cool with magic. So the one game of Pathfinder 2 I got to play, I was playing a cleric. We were trying to stop a ritual. If the person running the ritual died, it was going to be real bad. Everyone else on the team was nearly dead. Person casting the ritual was nearly dead. We're like, we can't make it out of this alive. I'm like, I got it. And they're like, no, we can't make it out of this alive. I'm like, I got it. And they're like, you're like a 3rd level cleric. What do you... I'm like, I got it. Because I only had 1 healing spell. But here's the thing. You cast a healing spell in Pathfinder 2e as 1 action, and it heals 1 person at touch for X amount. You cast that healing spell as a 2-action spell, and you can cast it at range with an extra d8 of healing.
Oh, that's good.
If it's a 3-action healing spell, it will heal everything within X amount of space for 1d8 plus whatever. So by standing, I had positioned myself to be in the middle of everything the last turn. And by standing absolutely still that turn and using everything I had, I healed everyone using a level 1 spell, just as a 3-action spell. And everyone got out of it alive. So, and that was just cleric. I can't imagine all the other ways you could use that. So that's part of why I'm really interested to learn more about Pathfinder 2e, because I think I could really break that game in a really, really fun way. It's not really a mechanic. I like combining mechanics. The character that became Soul on the Emergency Power podcast, I have still not played the original because they were just a design. And I don't think I'll ever get to play them because of what I'm about to tell you. They're a ronk. They're a rogue monk. None of the rogue magic. It is the monk style where you get any weapon can be your monk weapon. And by level 6, it is disgusting. Because I can move a stupid amount, I can hide and do sneak attack. It's called a monk. Go away, Sauce.
Right.
Basically, by level 6, I am obscene. I am this character would break the game. And that was not why I invented them. I created the personality, and I went, how do I get here? What is the class? The rogue monk, that makes sense. How does this... Oh, no. Because, like, I'd be able to give myself advantage. Any weapon I used could do sneak attack, and then also do holy damage or something like that. I had key points to break all of the rules. It was obscene. It was obscene. Rogue monk Wolverine. Not entirely incorrect.
I mean,
yeah,
claws are a martial weapon type.
Someone run a D&D game and let me play a rogue monk, please. I mean, they're terrible. They're a terrible character, but I really want to play that at least just once. So I really ronked up that character. Yes, I absolutely ronked up that character.
Thinking back on it, horde mechanics are my favorite because with casters, there are tons of AoE spells, and most of your combat encounters, just for like the ease of the math, is going to be like one main thing and like 3 or 4 other things, or 7 or 8 things dispersed amongst your group. And so you have fighters and barbarians and like melee druids who are just like cutting swaths of creatures down, and you know, you have your bards and like your ranged rogues that are, and I guess rangers that are shooting like arrows and projectiles through multiple things. And then you have your wizard, sorcerer, warlock, where they go, this fireball spell that I've had for like 5 levels, that I've always wanted to use, that I've always been like, oh my god, I will set the town. You could drop that motherfucker right in the middle of, and then just kill dozens of things all at once. And really just it creates such cool cinematic fights, because you can just throw waves and waves and waves of things at your players. I also really love the
or your
turn.
barbarian can turn into a freaking ballerina and just avoid the entire board.
Right.
You also really like?
I also really like the turn mechanics for paladins. Like a paladin who go away.
Clerics too. Clerics get that.
Clerics too. But just the idea of like a paladin walking into a town of undead and calling upon their god and being like, all of you fuck off. Just delightful.
Steph made the terrible mistake of letting me build a custom race. You've heard about I have a vegetation genasi.
Oh yeah.
He's
yeah.
also a grave domain cleric. And it's one of those where like I specifically like I built for I built this, but like I also kind of built it with one specific situation in mind that we will probably never encounter. But they're a little plant person, and if they have adequate sunshine and water, like conditions are good for them, they can re-roll short rest hit dice because they photosynthesized, right?
That's fair.
But I specifically built, they have normal vision, but because they're a plant person, they can't have their normal vision and this, but they can use blind sight to things in the ground because they can communicate with the roots. So if there's something standing on the ground on or above something alive, or roots of things, or like tree branches, they can see it. But they have to like stop using their, or else it's. So I basically built this character. So it's all like, oh, we're in a cave, we're somewhere dark, there's magical darkness. Cool. There it is, fairy fire. Done. I like playing with mechanics like that. Like, that is something that brings me joy. Where, like, no, this is probably not going to break the game. I don't want it to break the game. But in this one particular instance, we're out of trouble.
Yep.
And let your players talk and talk shit during combat. Let them talk smack. Encourage them to be cinematic. If they do something cool, even if it messes up your plans, complain about how much it messes up your plans and make it mess up your plans in the coolest way possible. And it'll make your players do even cooler stuff with their characters. And combat is so much more fun when everyone's talking smack and laughing rather than just number crunching.
Yep.
Thank you for coming
definitely
to my TED Talk.
Encourage your players to work together.
And yeah, that's I'm sure we'll revisit this later with some more solid mechanical things, but like we're still kind of riding the big bad and the Tazik god plane fight high. So
yep, Mike Marinara will make an appearance at some point. Stay tuned.
Great. Yes. All right, y'all. We're going to switch over to the other screen. This is me verbing. We're going to switch over to the other screen here in a minute and find someone to raid. I'm Kay. I've been one of your co-hosts. David, who are you? What do you do? And where can we find you?
Hi, I'm David. You can find me here every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we have the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show, where every week we talk about tabletop stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, and all with a focus on inclusion and intersectionality, so we all can have a good time. And
Tuesday,
you can
except
find
next Tuesday.
Right. And you will also find me behind the scenes on Thursday, where we have our last episode of season 2 of Godplane. And next month,
my goal is to make Carrie cry. I want Carrie to cry.
We'll get there. And then next month, you'll also find me helping Kay run the charity game.
Yay! Yes, I'm Kay Purcell. I do TTRPG stuff when I'm not working in video games. You can find me every other Wednesday on the Emergency Power Podcast. It's getting real fun. It's getting real fun up in there. You can see how I'm learning to break Starfinder mechanics-ish. The next episode comes out on the 23rd, but I believe tomorrow the playlist for my Solarian is finally going to be released. So that's going to be fun. Thursday, like David said, is the last episode of the Godplane. That's going to wrap up around 10 p.m. Eastern. But see, then I'm going to take like 2 hours and eat a thing, maybe. And then I'm going to turn around because at midnight, Pokemon Scarlet comes out. And you can find me streaming Pokemon Scarlet. I mean, basically the whole week after that. I've taken almost every day off of work for that. And then, yes, as Saucefire says, you can find myself and Saucefire, star of the formerly Grayotic Wholesome Talk Show, which had to rebrand so we didn't get sued for using, his likeness.
For copyright infringement.
Yeah, exactly. You can find us at PAX U at a certain panel at the Leviathan Theaters at 4:30, I think, on Saturday, where we will be talking a wonderful panel with amazing people, including Candace the Magnificent, Urban Bohemian, Gabe Hicks, and Holly Conrad, titled, in all caps, How to Take People's Money and Give It to Charity. A wrong answers only style panel on how to run a charity stream. So if you're going to PAX U, I hope to see you there. I also... I don't have it quickly on hand. If you go to PAX U, I will also have Emergency Power Podcast cards. They're awesome little... Oh, I have some. I have a giant box of them. But we have these awesome Emergency Power Podcast cards. They're collectible. They have, like, the summary of the characters and their little stats. I only have these 3 right now. But, stay tuned. The 2-year anniversary of Emergency Power is coming up, and there might be some more characters added to the deck. I'm just saying. Thank you so much, chat, for hanging out. You are all wonderful. Thank you for sharing your combat stories and horror stories. And we hope we've inspired you or given you some new ways to approach combat. If you have further questions, if you have a topic you'd like for us to cover, if you would like to come on the Cataclysm Talk Show and talk about a thing that you're really passionate about, or tell us about a new system, or tell us about an awesome show, we would love to have you. Please reach out. Good God, it's November. Next month, we are planning on doing a charity game, and then we're going to be off for a little while because Christmas, and I can't do this from my mom's house when I go home for Christmas. But December schedule will be up soonish. I'm going to switch over to the ending screen, and we'll find us a friend to raid. Thank you again for hanging out. We hope you be kind to yourselves, and we'll see you real soon.